Now, in another 10 days, the world will say goodbye to 2019 and welcome 2020. At the center of public discussions in Nigeria is the election, politics, the need for improved security, and the relationship between the three tiers of government. Well, the big questions are, what will Nigerians remember 2019 for, and how much did the country and its citizens achieve? We have our data analyst in the studio, Mr. Babajide Ogunsowo, to talk to us about it, 2019 into 2020. But let's look at just a few days to Christmas. Does higher spending in December affect the general economic mood? How do you think Nigerians will rate 2019?
2%. Just 2%.
Why so?
Millicent, only 2%. In 2 days, it'll be Christmas, yet only 2% of Nigerians can do this. What do I mean?
Microwave?
Oh, yes. This year, the National Bureau of Statistics tells us that only 2% of Nigerians this Christmas have and own a microwave that they can use to grill their Christmas chicken. Only 2% of Nigerians in their homes this Christmas have a washing machine. Only 2% of Nigerians this Christmas will be sitting in a home that has an air conditioner unit. That is the challenge. And so in 2019, most Nigerians were struggling to join that 2%. That 2% of people that have air conditioners, 2% of families that have washing machines, 2% of families that have a microwave to be used to grill Christmas chicken. In summary, what does all of this mean? It means the middle class is no longer in the middle. That is the summary of 2019.
So they're at the bottom.
That's the evidence that we have today. You know, perhaps one other way to look at it is to look at what people will remember in 2019. Oh yes, we remember the eyeball to eyeball between the executive and the judiciary. But let's look at it from the perspective of the citizens. And so a survey was conducted by the National Bureau of Statistics, and they asked Nigerians, what is the biggest problem that they face? So let's take a look at what Nigerians say is their biggest problem. The top 7 biggest problems facing all Nigerians today. And if we carefully study the feedback from Nigerians and we look at that information, here's what you find. Corruption is still important for Nigerians, but what is more important is for the government to throw unemployment out of the ring. What do I mean? The evidence from Nigerians show that in that recent survey, the #1 priority of Nigerians was unemployment. 20% of those surveyed said unemployment is the biggest problem. The second biggest is crime and security. 16% of those surveyed said they're taking paracetamol for that headache. And what is the third biggest problem? Healthcare. Followed by housing and corruption comes 5th. And then we also see the 2 other biggest concerns, high cost of living and infrastructure. And so if we are to assess 2019, it will be based on these 7 indicators that Nigerians in a credible survey say that these are the biggest problems that face them.
How about the biggest challenge for government in 2019? What are the indicators that we can use to measure their performance in this year? And the revenue would be, one of them.
Yes, revenue will be one of them. Infrastructure, revenue is required to finance infrastructure. So let's look at how we can fairly assess the performance of the government in 2019 based on these top 7 indicators. And #1 is unemployment. Now, the figures we have in 2018, which was last released by the Bureau of Statistics, states that unemployment was 43%. In 2019, we've seen no report on unemployment released, and so we have no basis to compare unemployment at the moment. Then we've seen the number of terrorist attacks. Last year, 645. We're waiting for the official numbers in 2019. We've seen healthcare, another problem of Nigerians. In 2018, the average budget from the government was 1,800 naira per capita. In the 2020 budget, we see that has gone higher. The second challenge, another challenge is house ownership. In 2018, only 36% of Nigerians living in the urban area owned a home. That figure hasn't changed. Bribery, which a lot of Nigerians talk about, we've seen a 2% decline from 32% of which was what the prevalence rate was in 2018. We've seen a moderate decline in bribery. Food inflation has gone from 11% last year to 12% this year. And what you talked about, government revenue, because government revenue is required to finance that infrastructure deficit. In 2018, Millicent, the federal government earned 4.1 trillion naira. The evidence from the Central Bank of Nigeria shows within the first 9 months of this year, we've only earned 2.8 trillion naira. So clearly, revenue is still a challenge, revenue.
So essentially, the outlook is fragile, in one word.
In one word, the outlook is fragile. But remember how we all started. Only 2% of Nigerians this Christmas will be able to grill a chicken at home. So the outlook is we need to grow that 2%. 2%, Millicent. This Christmas, you need to soberly eat your chicken because...
And remember others around us.
But I know you belong to the 2%.
Thank you, Baba Jogu. So there's no time. I wouldn't argue with you. Maybe after.
The pleasure is all mine, Millicent.
Thank you so much.